Tuli uutuus. Ostin Maxi. Monikäyttöinen 5-ovinen auto. Taloudellinen, 5-vaihteinen. Loistava suorituskyky. Ostin Maxi on autoja 2.
The Arctic Circle in January, temperatures down to 70 degrees below. No place for brass monkeys. Southern Portugal in August, temperatures around 115 degrees Fahrenheit, in the shade, if you can find any. 2 choice locations to complete the proving of a completely new car, but only to complete it. Under BLMC's new policy of phase-by-phase validation, no new design of car could get this far without previously surviving the most rigorous proving program ever scheduled in the British motor industry. In fact, the main engineering components of the Austin Maxi lurking under Austin 1100 body shells had already done a lifetime's test motoring in component test vehicles long before we ever built a car that looked like this. Everything new, from the 1500cc overhead camshaft engine to the very advanced 5-speed gearbox, had been put through 340,000 miles of every phase of proving. But under the severe engineering disciplines imposed by BLMC's new vehicle proving policy, this was only a beginning. The next step was the building of a few semi-engineering prototypes, hand-built to ADO 14 specifications. They too successfully endured the full proving program, just one small part of which has the understated description of accelerated durability, a sort of automotive mayhem. This includes cruelly incessant stop-start tests and thousands of miles of high-speed driving on Belgian-type pave, the most destructive road surface ever laid. In all, these first prototypes clocked up another 238,000 miles before we moved on to the next development. The fully engineering prototypes, built as nearly as possible to production line methods. For them too, the identical series of tests, from accelerated durability through to specific miscellaneous tests, and away. Altogether, these models notched up another 177,000 miles of proving to reach the point of engineering sign-off, when the decision was made to set up a pilot production line to turn out pre-production vehicles. A selection of these too were subjected to the complete proving schedule. Another phase of it being continuous day and night high-speed running. Usually on German autobahns or Italian autostrada, many thousands of miles were done at speeds between 70 and maximum. In all, over 270,000 miles of high-speed testing were successfully completed during the full proving period. And this was still not the end. When full production started, cars were selected at random from the production line and put through the same hoops all over again. And from start to finish of the 3-year marathon, constant checks and examinations were made to ensure that results matched up at each and every stage of development, component by component, complete car by complete car. To date, total test mileages in all phases of proving now tot up to 835,000 miles, broken down like this. Accelerated durability, 13,000 miles. General durability, 511,000 miles. Continuous high speed, 271,000 miles. Specific miscellaneous tests, 40,000 miles. As a further trial of the design's effectiveness and to ensure overseas acceptance, we did thousands of miles in violent extremes of heat and cold and road conditions. First, southern Portugal last August with temperatures around 115 degrees Fahrenheit, and arid tracks like this that really tested the car's dust-sealing qualities. Roads more suitable perhaps for more traditional transport. In Portugal too, the program demanded 24 hours a day motoring. Here, the cars come in to fill up and be handed over to a fresh team of drivers. The cars can take it, but the drivers do deserve a bit of rest. Not a trace of dust in the door seals. And now the cars and new drivers are ready to take off on another searing stint of hard motoring. Throughout the trip, we made frequent technical checks on all important features of the car's performance in the excessive heat. Though, for example, the car's fuel consumption proved unaffected by the conditions, the same couldn't be said for the drivers. That's a bit better. The checks continue, but the locals don't seem all that interested. From the burnt brown country of the south, we gave the cars a change of scene and a trial of different strength by taking them up into the highlands of northern Portugal. On fast roads that climbed and plunged and twisted up and down the mountains, there was plenty of hard work for the transmission. Up into fifth. Plenty of opportunity to prove the perfect precision of the rack and pinion steering and the complete stability of the hydroelastic suspension. Keep watching and see how steady they ride. Not a trace of roll or bounce. Even under severe test conditions, the Maxi gave its drivers the most relaxed ride in their experience. A new concept in assured handling, plus an eager overhead cam engine, add up to new standards of driving comfort and confidence. From the trials of the sun to the severity of Finland's snow and ice up around the Arctic Circle. In January, the main road surfaces are basically black ice decorated with snow. For a cautious driver in an ordinary car, about 20 miles per hour would seem a prudent speed. But even allowing for professional driving skills, it was pretty remarkable that the Maxi could maintain speeds in the 80s and 90s, mile after mile, with complete safety and directional stability. Even the reindeer don't find the going all that easy. We borrowed a local airfield for some more acrobatic tests. Again, there was solid ice beneath the snow. But in spite of violent antics like these, the car remained completely under control, again proving the wonderful combination of front-wheel drive and hydroelastic suspension. Under the fierce swing of induced handbrake spins, the car remained perfectly balanced. On the deep churned-up snow of country lanes, it was still possible to keep up remarkably high speeds without risk of a moment's loss of control. Austin front-wheel drive has always been unbeatable in these sort of conditions. But the new balanced elements of the Maxi design seem to go that one bit better. We are now nearing the Arctic Circle itself, where it doesn't come much colder, for an overnight stop. Welcome warmth and shelter for the team, but a night in the open for the car to prepare for tomorrow morning's cold start tests. No need for coats inside a car with this heating system, even up here. Next morning, we start the checkover before arriving at the moment of truth, when the ignition key will be turned. This car has been out all night in temperatures around 70 degrees of frost, and it's a long, long night. At this time of the year, Finland has 22 hours of bitter darkness in every 24. This is the most severe natural test of a car's cold starting qualities that anyone could devise. Out with the stopwatch. An immediate first-time start and back on the road. One more vital check. Does the car's heating system provide proper warmth in every corner of the car? This device proves it does. And now we near the end of a 3-year hard-slog proving program meticulously planned to solve all possible design problems in an entirely new car, long before it is announced to the public. In the history of the British motor industry, no new model has been as thoroughly tried, tested and proven as ADO14, the new Austin Maxi.
What happens when the best engineers in the world set out to create a beautiful car? You get beauty with brains behind it. You get two different body shapes, a true 4-door saloon and a 2-door coupe. And they are beautiful. Two different body shapes, each with 3 power options. A 1.3-liter, 1.8, and 1.8 TC. Two different body shapes, each with 3 trim options. Deluxe, Super Deluxe, and TC. And they are all beautiful. When British Leyland set out to create a beautiful car, you get 10 cars called the Morris Marina. Beauty with brains behind it.
In May 1968, Leyland Motor Corporation and British Motor Holdings merged to form British Leyland Motor Corporation. This merger was the final stage of an historical process which had been occurring within the British motor industry. The newly formed British Leyland Motor Corporation was a fusion of Britain's best engineering talents, with overall sales approaching £1,000 million a year. Lord Stokes became its chairman and managing director. Austin Morris Division was responsible for the 1100-1300 range, which was the bestseller in the UK in 1969 and 1970. Nevertheless, it was clear that the market was changing and that the C sector was becoming the largest and most rapidly growing. Only days after the merger was announced, Lord Stokes called the first meeting to consider a new car to compete directly with Ford's Cortina and Escort, Vauxhall's Viva, and the proposed Avenger from Chrysler.
Within that, we've seen that C-Class is liable to increase from 53% currently to 60% by then. Turning now to a price-volume relationship chart, we can see that the main volume is going to be within these price parameters. This is where the gap in our range is. This is where we're vulnerable to competition.
Well, as far as we know, we'll be looking at the upper end of the new Viva range. There'll be the so-called Roots B-Class car. We understand that the 71 version of the Cortina is going up in size and price.
The problem was not only one of competing in the toughest and most crowded sector of the market, but also one of time. The gap which had been defined in the market was considered significant enough to warrant an entirely new product. However, to develop and build a new car normally takes 3.5 years.
And I think we've got a time scale problem. Time isn't on our side. I don't think anybody could do anything better than produce this car in about 3 years. That gives us 2.5 years as a target to work for. Is that right?
Well, yes. If all these facts and figures are right, I'm sure they are. This really means we've got to move.
George Turnbull was the man with overall responsibility for the new car as Deputy Managing Director of the corporation and Managing Director of Austin Morris. Richard Perry, Managing Director of the Power and Transmissions Division of Austin Morris, responsible for all aspects of production, the utilization of existing plant and the construction of new facilities. Filmer Paradise, Director of Sales for Austin Morris, responsible for all aspects of the marketing and selling operation, from initial concept to the end sale to the buyer. Harry Webster, whose responsibilities embrace the entire design and development of the new car, both body styling and mechanical parts, Director and Executive Chief Engineer of Austin Morris. Having defined the precise marketing opportunities, it was the responsibility of this team to produce and launch the new vehicle, codenamed ADO 28.
You've got a pretty big job on your plate. We've got to come up with style that's better than Capri, and then on the other hand, we've got to get better passenger accommodation and more luggage space than the 1971 Cortina that we've been hearing about.
What you're really talking about is two entirely different cars, and you're really setting us a problem with this, you know. How can we do two in one?
Let's try and keep an open mind on this, shall we?
Harry Webster's team not only had to design a beautiful and competitive car, but they had the same stringent time limit. They decided to use engines which were already in production and which had proved reliable and efficient over millions of miles, and to design entirely original body styling. They tried endless variations until they finally arrived at styling they were all satisfied with.
Underneath, more or less, a basement, we've got a sloping ground at that end, which makes it difficult.
Richard Perry initiated an immediate review of production facilities. Harry Webster's team had already decided to make use of existing components where practicable. It was decided to make the gearbox in the building known as the flight shed. This was greatly adapted and extended from 100,000 to nearly 180,000 square feet in order to deal with the high volume, 6,600 units per week. Mechanical handling was carefully studied to keep costs down. The assembly area consisted of 3 main assembly tracks. The integration of the 2 previously separate factories, Press Steel Fisher and Morris Motors, was achieved by means of a 2,350-foot long overhead conveyor, which is totally enclosed. From the time the body shell is constructed at Press Steel Fisher until the finished car leaves the factory, all movements take place under cover. When the car bodies have been completed at Press Steel Fisher, they are transported via this new conveyor bridge into the assembly plant and given an electrocoat painting. Undersealing is carried out automatically. A high-level section of track allows operators to work at 2 levels. The final assembly track slopes to floor level and the completed cars are driven off to the tuning track. This is fitted with electronic engine tuning apparatus for correct setting of the ignition and for tuning the carburetor. Now that the design and production problems had been carefully considered, the team met for a final appraisal.
Well, Harry, it's well up to expectations. Looks very nice indeed. Now all we've got to do is to get it absolutely reliable and really good performance.
With the body styling and mechanical features finalized, an exhaustive testing program was carried out. The cars proved to be even more reliable than had been anticipated. Performance was equally good. Once this development had been completed, the problem was to launch into the marketplace the Morris Marina. This then was the new product. Not one, but 10 new cars in 2 totally different body shapes. A 2-door coupe and a 4-door saloon, with 9 color options, 3 engines and 3 levels of trim. The engines were to be derivatives of the A and B series, 1300 and 1800 cc, the latter in 2 stages of tune. Paradise briefed the advertising agency to prepare creative proposals for launch and follow-up advertising. A budget was agreed and the marketing objectives reaffirmed.
Up to now with the 1100 and 1300, we've been taking 25% of that sector.
So this broadens it?
It does. We want to go now to something like 35, 40% of that sector.
Once again, the time factor was critical. The agency submitted their creative proposals, which were discussed and reviewed.
I think that's a fairly good balance, but I don't think there's enough emphasis on engineering. I really don't. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit prosaic for what we're doing here. Everybody knows we've got the engineering and reliability story in the public consciousness. I think what we've got to do is get the emphasis on the glamour side of this styling. And you've got a chance to show some of the features here.
Look, you know, we've got...
Ideas were adapted, rethought, and new proposals made, until the final campaign emerged.
We've got everything we need.
We've got boot capacity.
We cover it.
That's got all the glamour of the 2 body styles. That's what we need.
The final campaign included a television commercial, a cinema commercial, full-page color advertising in the national press and magazines, fleet and consumer brochures, and point-of-sale material. All this work was carried out in 3 weeks, often with 2 film crews working simultaneously. This meant that the cars needed constant attention to keep them in perfect photographic condition. The still photography was to be used not only for press advertising, but also for consumer and fleet brochures. The whole range of 10 cars was to be launched to the public in April. The 1.3 Deluxe Coupe, the 1.3 Super Deluxe Coupe, the 1.8 Deluxe Coupe, the 1.8 Super Deluxe Coupe, the 1.8 TC Coupe, the 1.3 Deluxe Saloon, the 1.3 Super Deluxe Saloon, the 1.8 Deluxe Saloon, the 1.8 Super Deluxe Saloon, and the 1.8 TC Saloon. The corporation had achieved its objectives to design, develop and launch a completely new car in 3 years. In fact, it was all accomplished in 2 years, 11 months.
Jolly good, but it's a jolly good show by everybody. But I think now, as far as I'm concerned, Marina's something that's in the pipeline, going along fine. What we've got to consider now is next new model 8067. I think we've got to get started in on that one, right? Good.
Introducing Allegro, the new driving force from Austin.
Well, sir, if we're going to demonstrate this car, let's do it properly, shall we?
Allegro, with a revolutionary hydrogas suspension system.
Bumps, dips, cracks, furrows in the road? Oh, yes, sir.
No problem. A unique suspension that needs no regular maintenance. Allegro, with radial tires, 5 gears on the top models. Front-wheel drive for better handling and road holding, and front disc brakes.
Not all your roads are motorways, are they, sir?
Allegro, with power up to 1750. Allegro, 4 engine sizes in a range of 12 different models.
Enjoy the ride, sir?
Very pleasant. What do you think, dear?
Can we try the blue one?
Allegro, the new driving force from Austin.
Religiously, once a year, in every major country, thousands of people make a crowded pilgrimage to pay their first respects. They stream through the turnstiles to stare, to dream, to admire, and pay noisy homage to an object that has captured their hearts, the motor car. Few things have inspired such a close and involved relationship as between man and motor car. It has been described as the great 20th century love affair, a means by which the ordinary man can express his desire for power, individuality, superiority, and perhaps even virility. But as the car population increases and a growing proportion of owners begin to look around for a vehicle to replace their third or fourth love affair, there's an indication that for many people, the days of the car purely as a status symbol are over. The modern motorist knows what he's looking for.
Well, from the experience of driving many, many miles as I have done, I would say comfort first, which means size.
Well, I go for the look of it much more than anything. Comfort, speed, and plenty of room for the luggage.
Styling for the wife and good colours, I suppose.
Fairish size boat to take plenty of luggage in.
Miles per gallon and easy service facilities.
Good safe seat belts in a car full of kids or your wife or passengers or so forth.
I suppose being a woman, I look for style, really. Something I like the shape of, personally.
Obviously, economies are something to be taken into consideration. And performance is great, which is rather difficult to sum up in one particular motor car.
We need the space.
We want economy, we want a reasonable price.
One wants an ideal car, but one has to compromise. Ideally, one would like all the room that's necessary for a family and a holiday, but one would also like all the qualities of a sports car in terms of handling and pleasure to drive, and I suppose compactness, but so far they haven't made it.
The motor vehicle has become an indispensable part of people's lives, and this familiarity has bred a new awareness of what a good car should be. Even though the honeymoon with the car may be over, the excitement remains as more and more people begin to think of the car as a means of doing a whole variety of other things that modern living is all about. The open road, a symbol of freedom to the man with a motor car, and for British Leyland, a starting point for a new concept in vehicle engineering. George Turnbull, managing director of Austin Morris and a key man in the team that set out to design a car for all kinds of roads and all kinds of people.
When we at Austin Morris decided the concept of the new car, codenamed ADO 67, we wanted to produce a car which would be all things to all men. As we saw it, we wanted a medium-sized family car with advanced engineering features, good performance, exceptional comfort, road holding, steering, in fact, a personal car.
Designed from the road upwards, the ADO 67 became the code name for 5 years' hard work and an enormous investment in money and skill. Harry Webster, technical director of the engineering division.
Obviously, the radial ply tyre is a much better animal than the cross-ply from the point of view of ride and handling. And we felt that because the suspension that we're using on this vehicle is such a big step forward, it was perhaps retrograde, a little retrograde, to stay with the cross-ply tyres, having done so much more to the suspension.
Although Austin were already leaders in suspension systems, the team had been working on a new idea that was earmarked for the ADO 67. Bert Lawrence explains.
This is quite a revolutionary form of suspension. We pioneered hydroelastic, if you remember, with the earlier Minis in 1300s and 1800s. This is quite a considerable improvement, even upon hydroelastic.
Hydrogas, a system similar in many ways to hydroelastic, but even more refined and effective. Ray Bates explains why.
The big change is that the rubber suspension medium that we had on the hydroelastic version has been superseded by a sealed bag of nitrogen under pressure, which forms the suspension medium.
I think you'll find that the road holding is quite extraordinary. I think this must be the most important feature of this car.
In road holding, in resistance to rolling and pitching, and in ironing out the roughest surfaces, Hydrogas is superlative. And throughout its development, nothing was left to chance.
The test program we've done on it is a very extensive one. And I think it's fair to say that this unit will prove just as reliable, and we're convinced that it is. It's a hell of a good suspension.
Already, the design team were well on their way, substantially improving what was thought to be an unbeatable suspension on previous models. Lord Stokes, chairman and managing director of British Leyland.
It's become fashionable nowadays to have transverse engines. It's become fashionable to have front-wheel drives. But Austin Morris were the absolute pioneers of this in mass production vehicles in real quantity.
Past experience has proved beyond question that for tenacious road holding and comfortable ride, a wheel at each corner and front-wheel drive are a powerful combination. The time had come for decisions to be made regarding the power units for the new car.
We decided on a wide range of engine options from 1100 cc's up to 1750 cc's.
Particular attention was paid to the layout of the engine compartment. Filmer Paradise, Director of Sales.
Traditionally, in our front-wheel drive cars, we've had rather a crowded engine compartment and little difficulties in easy servicing. Most of those have been eliminated in this car, and if you look inside the bonnet, you'll see that it's probably got the most ample and easily accessible transverse layout you'll find.
A bigger compartment and easier servicing made possible by moving the radiator into the direct air stream and providing it with a thermostatically controlled electric fan, which is quieter and takes no power from the engine. To meet future pollution regulations, the carburation was improved to the point where it provides not only cleaner exhaust emission, but also more power and better economy. Once the mechanics were right, the team concentrated on the body.
In arriving at the size of the vehicle, the only thing we really decided on this one was to use the total length of the vehicle, except for the bumpers obviously, but total length of the vehicle for interior space, whether it be for humans or luggage.
In many vehicles, space is an expensive luxury. But whilst the new car is compact, it was designed to allow generous space for 4 adults. To cope with the luggage, usable boot space was increased by 60% over previous models. The stylists set themselves the job of producing a 2- or 4-door vehicle with a functional European look, and then dressing it to provide the motorist with a good choice of exterior trim finish, from the essentially practical to the unashamedly glamorous.
We are certainly looking forward to the introduction of this car because it's very much more round than any car we've had before. It's got very nice forms on it, and it's really showing up the body colours very nicely. We're very pleased with it from that aspect.
But not content with making the new car look good, they devised means of making it stay that way. To combat corrosion, the new car benefits from the very latest techniques in body protection. All body members are wax injected, and every part of the shell treated by an electrophoretic paint coating process. With sound paintwork and full underbody sealing, the ADO 67 is timeless in durability as well as being timeless in looks. Just as much thought went into the interior.
The steering wheel we've made an interesting shape. It really is a technically correct shape for this particular car because the instruments are so positioned that you can view them straight through the steering wheel. It's a very comfortable wheel to hold, and the angle of the wheel has now been flattened out so that it comes to hand in a natural way. It seems to have fitted nicely into the vehicle as an interesting shape.
The new Cortic wheel is just one way in which the car breaks new grounds in driving comfort and convenience. Controls are close at hand for safety and matched by ergonomically designed seating. Whatever the motorists need, plain utility or pampered elegance, the new model has it all.
You say to yourself, "My, this is a solid car." It's about the way you encapsulate it. It is a very, very solid car. The fact that it happens to be good looking helps.
After 2 years of arduous testing, a range of 12 cars emerged to exactly fit the needs of the modern motorist.
We were aiming for a car with a very wide selection of trims and interiors and a timeless European look. And we believe the ADO 67 fulfills this requirement completely. And to cap it all, we decided on a very attractive name for the model, the Allegro.
Austin Allegro, an exciting range of 12 new cars with wide appeal for the roads of Europe. Lord Stokes has no doubt about its future.
We set our engineers, our designers a challenge. I've watched it through all the stages of its development. I've driven it at all the stages of its development, and I'm absolutely convinced that they've got a car here which is quite outstanding in its class and its type.
Allegro, the new driving force from Austin.
Der Leyland Princess weist den Weg.
Different. A car of today. It'll be new tomorrow and the days after. The envy of all. A really beautiful car. Get it right. Small details. No, not quite. Now that's it. Or is it? Let's see. Fit 5 people in. Plenty of legroom. Headroom for 6-footers. Room to breathe. Riding in comfort. Perfect. Now for the seats. Research and more research. Support where it's needed. Hold firmly. Seat softly. Sitting in comfort means driving more safely. Fully in control. Feel part of the car. These cars have quality. Built to be safe. Built to last. Crash-tested body shell. Extra strength where it counts. The passenger compartment. Tested for quality. Every stage, every part. Finally, protection from rust. And now, the cars of tomorrow, today. The Deluxe 1800s. Austins with elegant trapezoid halogen headlamps. Morris with powerful twin tungsten lights. Distinctive. The biggest news since the Mini. Elegant, low waistline. Lots of glass. Wipers don't obstruct. They fold right away. Weather can't hurt this car. Wheel arches plastic lined. Bright drip rail carries water back past you. Don't worry, side windows demist too. Instruments don't reflect. See them in daylight, see them at night. Brighter or dimmer as you wish. Cigar or cigarette. Glow around the lighter, easy to find. Fasten your seat belts. The red light will tell you. Should your brakes fade, you'll be told that too. Warm enough, cool enough. 3-speed fan will get it just right for you and keep the air clean if you're caught in a jam. Adjust the seat. Height. Rake, tilt, comfort for the driver means safety all round. Space where it matters. For people and their luggage. Big boot will take suitcase after suitcase. But now, even better, here come the Highlines, 18 and 2200s. Even more luxury, all those little extras. Follow the long, smooth coach line along. bright trim on wheels and on the wheel arches. Bright trim on door cappings. Elegant vinyl panels for distinction. Lock up your petrol. And inside, elegant ambler trim. Special style fascia. Instruments too. Have you the time? Yes. Fresh air, warm air, especially for backseat drivers. Glare from behind you? Dip the mirror then, and away you go in style. And now for the ultimate, luxury and comfort, elegance and style. The best of them all, the Wolseley. Vinyl roof. Notice the boot lid. Coach lining. Bright work round screen. Tinted glass all around. Luxury and comfort. Elegance and style. Velour trim on seats for the ultimate. Headrests too. Passengers in back can light their own cigars or read. Lights under the bonnet, in the glove box, and of course the boot. Rest for the arms. Rest for the left foot too on automatics. And the elegant fascia and wheel. Of course the boot's carpeted. Plenty of room for maps. Go where you will. So now that you've seen the range, let's see how it behaves. The hydrogas suspension gives an even ride. It hugs the road on big, big tires and wide, wide track. In wet or dry, there's power when needed, but economy too. Smooth and silent, responsive to touch. Beautiful cars need beautiful colors. Colors to enhance and bring out the shape. Choosing from these will add to the pleasure. But it's not just a pretty face. You can rely on it. Well-tried engineering will ensure long life and many miles of trouble-free motoring. Power and safety on whatever the road ahead. Overtake swiftly. Hug the road's curve. Steering is assisted on 2200s and Wolseley. But dual circuit brakes make each car in the range safe to stop. Let's just see what we've got. A big car that's not too big to handle. A range styled with tomorrow in mind. It's the biggest news since the Mini. The 1822 series. The car that's got it all together.